Hello everyone, this is Ashok, your personal guide and mentor. I welcome everyone to my YouTube channel AKB Tutorials. Here we are going to discuss and cover some important concepts of mechanical engineering that are very useful and helpful for competitive exam and job interviews. So let us start today's session. Hello everybody. So today in this video we are going to see some important objective questions related to strength of material. So these questions are frequently asked in competitive exams as well as job interviews. So let us start today's session. So the first question in this is, a body is under tensile load, state in which mode the body will fail. A body is under tensile load, state in which mode the body will fail. So in this question it is stated that the body is under tensile load. So the body means body may be made of ductile material or brittle material. Now say this is the body is under tensile load, or you can say the body is under direct load also. Say the body is under load P is a tensile load. Now we have to say whether the body, in which mode the body will fail. So first we are taking ductile material. So we know ductile material. In ductile material, the body elongates more before failure. But in case of brittle material, there is very little deformation or no deformation at all before failure. Now in this case of ductile material, the body elongates more before failure, so that we have seen in stress strain diagram. So thereby the stress developed in the body, that is normal stress developed in the body, is given by the resistance developed in the body by cross sectional area, and maximum shear stress developed in the body is given by tau max. It is sigma by 2. This derivation we will see later. So tau max for unidirectional load, it will be sigma by 2. That is normal stress developed is sigma, and sigma by 2 is the maximum shear stress developed. Now as the body elongates more before failure, and this tau max occurs at 45 degree with the load P, the axis of load P, with load P at 45 degree angle, and so the body will fail and it will form a cup cone shape, so that like this. So this one is cone section and this one is cup section. So that means, and this is the axis of the load. With axis of load it is 45 degree and 45 degree. So if the material is made of, or body is made of ductile material, then the body will fail by shear mode. So that means by shear stress the body will fail. But in case of brittle body, if the tensile load is applied, then there is very less deformation or no deformation at all. So the body will fail along this perpendicular line to this axis. So it will fail by normal stress. So that means when the body is under load P, sigma is P by A, and because of sigma this brittle body will fail, and for ductile body it will fail by shear mode. Now we will go to the second question, that is define plasticity. Question number 2, define plasticity. In mechanical engineering, where this property is useful? In mechanical engineering, where this property is useful? Okay. So plasticity, as per its definition, plasticity, whenever the load is removed from the body does not come back fully to its original position or original shape and size, then the property is called the plasticity. So it is the property by virtue of which the body will not come back to its original shape and size even after removal of the load, is known as plasticity. Ductile material shows this behavior, that is plasticity, and in mechanical engineering that property is very much useful when the products are made by using deformation. So in metalworking operation, all the metalworking operation, this property is very much useful. So where the products are formed by applying the force, and after removal of the force the body will not regain its original shape and size, so thereby the permanent state will remain in the body and the products are produced. So for metalworking operations this property is very much useful. Now we will see the next question, what do you mean by dead load? Question number 3, what do you mean by dead load? So we have covered this in previous topic. So the dead load, the load whose magnitude does not vary with respect to time, is called dead load. So say example is the weight of structure, or weight of a building. So these are the dead load. The magnitude of the load will not vary with respect to time. So it will remain same throughout its life. Also it remains at the same location. So that load is coming under dead load. Now next question is, what is the usefulness? What is the usefulness of considering factor of safety. State factor of safety for different situations. Now first we will see what is factor of safety. Factor of safety is defined as the ratio of design load to working load or design stress to working stress. Now what is factor of safety? So it can be written as design load to working load. Now we know in every machine or structure all the members are supposed to carry some load. So all the members are designed to carry some load. Say this is a member. So the maximum load which is coming over the member during its life period is, say, F. This is the maximum load coming over the member. This load is known as working load. If the body is designed by considering this load, then the body may fail at any time because of uncertainty. There are so many uncertainties involved while it is used, so that due to that uncertainty, the body may fail at any time. So to prevent failure, the body is designed by considering a much higher load than that of the working load. And that load which is considered to design a body by the designer is called design load. So design load is much higher than that of the working load, and it will be always greater than 1. So it may be 5, it may be 4, it may be 3.5, 2.5, or it may be even more than 5. Now if factor of safety is not considered, then body may fail at any time. If it is taken less, then the probability of failure of the body will be more. At any time it can fail, but if we consider more factor of safety, so that means the cross-sectional area of the body or the member will increase. Thereby the cost of the product will go high. That's why an optimum condition is considered in between these two, and it is one of the most critical tasks of designer to set the factor of safety for a product. Okay. Now what do you mean by next question? We'll see. That is question number 5. What do you mean by the term the body is homogeneous? So this term is used again and again in various subjects like strength of material, machine design and other subjects. So body is homogeneous. That means, say this is a body. Body may be made of single component, body may be made of more than one component or element. So if we analyze at any point in the body, if the composition remains same at any point in the body, then the body is known as a homogeneous body. So that means when the composition of the body at every point remains same, the body is called homogeneous body. Now next question we will see. That is, what do you mean by modulus of fracture? What do you mean by modulus of fracture? This is the energy absorbed by the body per unit volume before failure is called the modulus of fracture. That means the energy absorbed by the body before failure per unit volume is known as modulus of fracture. So this is the stress strain diagram, and for a ductile body, so this is the stress strain diagram for a ductile body like mild steel, and this is the failure point. And the modulus of fracture is given by the area under stress strain curve up to failure point. So this gives the energy absorbed by the body per unit volume. So this area, if we could measure this area, then that will give the modulus of fracture for that particular material. Now let the average stress is sigma average, and at failure point say epsilon f is the strain developed. Okay, then this total area is given by sigma average into epsilon f. This is called the modulus of fracture. Okay, next question we will see, that is, this is question number 6. Now we will see the next question, that is question number 7. What is the difference between a scalar, vector and a tensor quantity? So in physics, so we have seen the physical quantities. Physical quantities can be a scalar quantity or a vector quantity, but along with we have seen another quantity that is called tensor quantity. If only one parameter is required to define the physical quantity, so that is called a scalar quantity, like mass of a body is a scalar quantity. So only one parameter is required to define mass. So mass is a scalar quantity. Second one is the vector. So if two parameters are required to define a physical quantity, then that is called a vector quantity, like velocity. So it has magnitude as well as direction. So both the parameters are required to define this vector quantity, and the third quantity is called tensor quantity. So in tensor quantity, more than two parameters are required to define this tensor. So like vector, it requires magnitude, direction, as well as the area of application. So the physical quantity which can be described by the magnitude, direction and area of application is known as tensor quantity. And vector quantity, the physical quantity which can be described by magnitude and direction is called vector quantity. And in case of scalar quantity, the physical quantity which can be expressed only by its magnitude is known as scalar quantity. Okay. So next question we will see, that is, what is a composite bar? What is a composite bar? And how will you find the stress, strain and deformations? How will you find the stress, strain and deformation? So a composite bar, or you can say a composite system. So whenever the load is applied over the body and the load is taken by more than one member, then that system is known as composite system, or that bar is called composite bar. Okay, anyhow, consider the heavy load. Load is taken by the three members shown here. Okay, so this is the three members. These are the three members. The three members are taking the total load, say W. So member 1, member 2 and member 3. The three members are taking the total load W. Then this member is called a composite bar. Anyhow, how will you find the stress, strain and deformation in this system? Now, let three bars are taking the total load, and let the load taken by bar 1 is given by P1, bar 2 is given by P2 and bar 3 is given by P3. So as per the static equation, we can write W is equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3. So total load is shared by three members in the system. So P1 plus P2 plus P3 is equal to the total load. Now the stress developed in the bar, for this we should know the area of member 1, member 2 and member 3. So and the stress for this material bar, say materials are of different materials. So let sigma 1 is the stress developed in the bar, sigma 2 is the stress developed in second bar and sigma 3 is the stress developed in third bar. So we can write P1 is equal to sigma 1 into A1 plus sigma 2 into A2 plus sigma 3 into A3. And if sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 are the stresses developed in the bars, so we can easily calculate. Okay, now the strain depends on the length of the bar. Say there will be a common deformation produced in all the bars. Say dl is the common deformation produced in the bar, and the length, original length of the bar, say it is L1, second one is L2, and third one is given as L3. So epsilon 1 is equal to dl by L1, and epsilon 2 strain developed in second bar is equal to dl by L2, and epsilon 3, that is strain developed in third bar, is equal to dl by L3. So we can write the equations. And also we know the relations. Once we know sigma 1 and epsilon 1, and say Young modulus of this bar is E1, E2 for second bar, and for third bar is E3. So we can find the another set of equations, that is sigma 1 is equal to E1 into epsilon 1, sigma 2 is equal to E2 into epsilon 2, and sigma 3 is equal to E3 into epsilon 3. So in this composite system, total load W is shared by all the members, that is bar 1, bar 2 and bar 3. So the stresses will develop in each bar. Say the stresses developed in bar 1 is sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3. Load taken by bar 1 is P1, P2 and P3. And also this is the material property. Young's modulus of elasticity for bar 1 is E1, bar 2 is E2 and bar 3 is E3. So total load is equal to the load taken by the members P1 plus P2 plus P3. So P1 we can write sigma 1 into the stress developed in bar 1 into the area of cross section plus sigma 2 into A2 plus sigma 3 into A3. Also we can find the strain produced in each member. Epsilon 1, epsilon 2 and epsilon 3 is given by dl by L1 plus dl by L2 and dl by L3, where dl is the common deformation produced in all the bars. And from material property or by using Hooke's law, we can write sigma 1 is equal to. So if we solve all these equations, we can find what is the stress developed in each bar, strain developed in each bar, as well as okay. So deformation dl also we can find. Okay, we will see this derivation again in another topic. Now next question we will cover here. What is the difference between the strain and deformation? So question number 9. What is the difference between strain and deformation? Now say bar. This is a bar. Bar is under load. Bar is under load P, and as the load P is a tensile load, the bar will extend, say by amount dl. dl is the extension produced in the bar over a length of, say, L. Now this dl is the amount or magnitude of deformation, magnitude of extension produced over a length of L bar. So this dl is known as the deformation, and the strain is defined as the ratio of deformation produced per unit original length of the bar. So strain is given by dl by L. so it is unitless. So change in length to original length, or the extension produced in the bar divided by the original length of the bar is called the strain. Now next point we will see the last question of this video. What is the difference between the shear stress and complementary shear stress? What is the difference between shear stress and complementary shear stress? So the stress produced in a body due to shear load is called shear stress. What is shear load? When the load is acting over a body tangentially, then the load is called shear load. Say some load is acting here, say P load is acting over this surface, okay, which cross sectional area is A. Then the shear stress produced in the body is given by P by A, and it is shown like this. So P is the shear load acting over the body which causes shear stress in the body. Or in other words, we can say the two equal opposite parallel force causes shear stress. Now what is the force value? Okay, so this shear stress acting over the body, okay, consider a three-dimensional body. Okay, this is a three-dimensional body. The body stress, shear stress is acting, say tau, and here it is tau. So if we give the direction tau y x, this is also tau y x. So okay, this is the stress value, shear stress acting over the body. Let the length AB and say this is C. Now because of this shear stress, the body will rotate. To maintain the equilibrium of the body, and equal and opposite stress is developed in the body. That stress is denoted by tau xy. Tau xy is called complementary shear stress. So shear stress is developed because of load P. P by A is equal to the shear stress, so it is denoted by tau yx. Say this is your shear stress, so it becomes a clockwise stress as shown, that is, it is shown like this. So this is a clockwise stress, and because of this clockwise stress, the body will rotate. To maintain the equilibrium, an equal and opposite stress is developed in the body, and that is called complementary shear stress. That is like this, so that so if this is clockwise stress, shear stress, the complementary shear stress will be in anti-clockwise direction. And if we derive this, tau xy will be equal to tau yx, means shear stress and complementary shear stress value will be same. Okay friends, That's all for this video. We will meet in the next video soon. That's all for today's session. We would continue further on this topic in the next session. Keep being connected with us and ask any question in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified for future videos. Thank you and see you soon.